Shocking words from Gökberk Yildirim have set the gossip world ablaze, and yes, we're right in the middle of it. Welcome to Whispers of Turkish Stars, the home of whispers that turn into thunder. Before we dive into the heart of tonight's headline, make sure you subscribe and keep those notifications on, because this one is about fame that isolates, a love that refuses to be caged, and a confession that many will resist but none can ignore. In a recent sit-down, Gökberk looked straight into the lens and stripped away the armor. He wasn't performing a role, he was peeling off one. The sentence that escaped his lips sounded simple, almost casual: he does not police his girlfriend's life. But the moment he said it, the temperature shifted. Everyone who heard it felt the sting of a rule being rewritten, and in that new rulebook, jealousy is not proof of love, and control is not protection. People will tell you it's just a preference, a modern twist on an old theme, but you know that's not the story here. That sentence dares a culture that has long equated closeness with ownership. It calls out a dynamic that confuses obsession with devotion, and it challenges the belief that a man's love must be measured in doors he closes. The backlash came fast. Some voices cheered, praising him as the kind of man they want to see more of. One who trusts, one who listens, one who refuses to blur love with power. Others rolled their eyes and called it impossible, a glossy ideal that can't survive the messiness of real relationships. But when a statement rattles both the hopeful and the cynical, you know it struck a live wire. He didn't stop there. In the same breath, Gökberk set another boundary that sounded like a confession and a warning at once: he is not a macho man. He refuses the stale costume that still gets handed out to leading men: the hard jaw, the possessive gaze, the stubborn pride that bottles up feeling, splashes on cologne, and names it strength. If you followed his career, you know how easily the industry would let him live inside that old silhouette. Yet he steps away from it, not with an apology, but with a posture that says he's tired of being mistaken for a statue. He was never frozen marble. He is flesh and breath, patience and choice, and this time he let everyone hear it. The revelation landed like a stone in a deep pool, and the ripples stirred memories, rumors, and uncomfortable questions. Was he pointing back to old relationships? Was he answering the whisper campaign that tried to fold him back into the box he keeps refusing? The subtext wrote itself. Labels have circled him for years: aloof, distant, even controlling. But he seemed less interested in denying them than in replacing them. If you've watched him carefully, you've seen it. He doesn't offer defenses, he offers a different language. He doesn't ask for your permission, he invites you to see a man whose strength is measured in how much space he can give without fearing he'll disappear. And then we arrived at the tender edge where fame meets silence. Fame can leave you alone in a crowded room, he said in other words, but I choose the quiet anyway. That line rang louder than any applause. You could think it's a surrender to loneliness, but it sounded more like a contract he signed with himself. He has trimmed his circle until it became a shape he could carry. He's not hiding, he's curating. If you went looking for him at events that pulse with cameras and champagne, you might have missed him lately. That's not accident, it's design. He knows the cost of being visible, and he pays in carefully exact coins. A smaller table, fewer faces, the kind of evenings where you can hear your own thoughts. Those who get it call it self-preservation. Those who don't call it a wall. When the conversation turned to relationships, Gökberk drew the cleanest line of the night. A partner's wardrobe, friendships, posts, nights out, he won't hold those reins. He says love isn't a leash, and he acts like he believes it. At the center of all this is Semra Arda, a woman who is unapologetically herself. On set, online, on red carpets, and on quiet mornings. She wears what she wants, laughs with whoever she trusts, and posts when inspiration hits, not when permission is granted. And Gökberk? He doesn't hover over her phone or audit her schedule. Predictably, social media erupted. "Isn't this too much freedom?" wrote one commenter. "Real love comes with jealousy," insisted another. But what if real love arrives with oxygen instead? What if trust is louder than suspicion, and care is measured not by locks, but by open doors? Of course, when a man speaks this way, the industry tries to file him neatly: activist, strategist, idealist, opportunist. They argued over whether his support for gender equality is a heartfelt promise or a smartly timed headline. He answered without theatrics. He spoke about growing up watching the subtle ways power favors men, about fathers who either multiply the problem or break the chain, and about choosing to break it. He admits that men often move through the world with invisible privileges, and that recognition shapes how he loves. He doesn't expect applause for saying it, as if honesty were a performance. In some circles, that honesty has cooled the air. There are men who don't want the room rearranged, men who smirk when the jokes get crude. He says he's done letting those smirks pass. "I don't get involved in that," he has said more than once, a simple sentence that closes a door many are afraid to touch. And yes, there was a price. He hinted at it like a bruise under a sleeve. He lost a friend because of this line he refuses to cross. Do you know how softly men are taught to excuse each other? How easy it would have been for him to shrug and change the subject. He didn't. He called the moment what it was, and the friendship unraveled. Some call it oversensitivity. Some call it integrity with a backbone you can see from across the room. The gossip mill spun. Was this why he shows up less often at certain gatherings? Is this why a few tables no longer have a seat with his name on it? Maybe. Or maybe this is what conviction looks like when it stops asking to be liked. If you've been following the timeline closely, one sentence pulled old chapters into the spotlight. He admitted he wouldn't repeat some things he did before, which, of course, sent everyone digging. Past interviews resurfaced, throwback photos climbed back into feeds, and the old shorthand, who, when, wide warmed up like it never left. Was that regret we heard? Or renewal? The answer felt quieter than either. It sounded like growth. It sounded like a man who knows how easily love can get tangled with insecurity, who has learned what not to tighten, what not to demand, and what to let breathe. With Semra, the clarity reads like a manifesto written in gestures. He shows up, he steps back, he listens, he chooses. It's complicated only if you've never been trusted. Then came the part the industry pretends to understand but rarely does, the craft. For Gökberk, acting isn't a mirror you visit to admire yourself. It's a lab where hypotheses get tested and masks get burned. He insists there is no final summit to conquer, no role that crowns you forever. Because of that, he has turned down projects that would have set social media on fire. Imagine the audacity, saying no to a season of nonstop trending, because the script is shallow, because the character speaks like a cardboard cutout, because the story only worships the surface. He wants characters with blood in their veins, roles that interrogate him back. That choice costs him heat he could easily borrow. But maybe he's done borrowing. Maybe he wants his flame to come from work that risks something real. Still, let's ask the question that sits at the center of this storm. Why did one sentence feel like an earthquake? Because it dares the equation many still cling to: love equals possession. It asks a country that has whispered "because I love you" at the end of too many restrictions to try a new translation. Love equals trust. Love equals space. Love equals two full people walking side by side, not one person shrinking so the other can feel tall. That's not the idol certain corners want to bow to. They want jealous, protective, dominant, as if those words were synonyms for devotion. He offered an alternative: steady, respectful, equal. That's not less romantic. It's more difficult. It takes practice. It takes unlearning. Will everyone sign up for that version? No. And that's the point. A new frame always looks crooked to eyes trained on the old wall. Some will mock it, some will fear it, some will quietly try it and never admit that it saved them. But if you're listening, you can hear what this means for Gökberk and Semra. She thrives because she isn't being managed. He breathes because he isn't pretending. Together they invite a storm, and together they don't flinch. Nothing kills gossip faster than a love that isn't performing for it, and nothing feeds it more than a love that doesn't bend to its rules. Either way, this conversation isn't going anywhere. These words will keep echoing, shaping how others speak in their kitchens and in their captions, in interviews and in silence. He didn't sell a slogan tonight, he signed a declaration. Call it a manifesto if you like. It's the kind of stance that can't be reduced to a clip without losing the marrow. This isn't just a choice about how to date, it's a refusal to confuse power with care. It's a vote for partnership over possession. And when a public figure plants that flag, the landscape shifts a little even if the cameras pretend not to notice. Some will keep asking whether this is savvy branding. Maybe they need it to be, because if it isn't, then they might have to change, too. But some things aren't strategies. They're simply the truth finally spoken aloud. So here we are, at the end of a night that began with a single sentence and ended with a mirror held up to all of us. If you've ever been told that love means less of you, if you've ever been praised for disappearing inside someone else's idea of who you should be, this conversation is for you. What do you hear in Gökberk's voice when he says he won't interfere with his partner's life? Do you hear indifference? Or do you finally hear what trust sounds like when it stops asking to be translated? Do you see a man dodging commitment, or a man committing to something braver than control? Tell me what you think, because this channel breathes when you speak. Is freedom in love stronger than jealousy? Does equality feel riskier than power only because power is a habit we haven't broken yet? Drop your thoughts below. If you haven't yet, subscribe to Whispers of Turkish Stars, like this video, and share it with that one friend who still believes love is a checklist of rules. In our next upload, we'll open the door to the stories everyone in this town has heard but no one dares to say out loud. Until then, remember this: some lines fade the moment they're spoken. And some keep gaining weight every time they're repeated, carving a path through a crowded room until the silence finally makes way for the truth.